Susan L. Allen, National President and CEO of the U.S. Pan-Asian American Chamber of Commerce Education Foundation, serving the Pan-Asian American business community, corporations, government, nonprofits, and of course, the fastest growing ethnic group in America in population and in business formation and sustainability. This is our 36th year, and I want to welcome you to our second of a series of Grow with Google Business Development Program. Google has been a member of the U.S. Pan-Asian American Chamber of Commerce Foundation since 2015. Our partnership has grown, and the membership has become more and more active between the two organizations, Google with us and us with Google. And that is why we're here with you today to continue our Grow with Google program. A few weeks ago, you heard from one of our expert trainers on how to make better business decisions with analytics. You learn about using search terms, the demographic information that are most that would help you reach the most profitable customers, and what type of content your customers are interested in, and how to convert customers, the potentials into real customers. Today, we have another treat for you. We have a fantastic training session led by a fantastic trainer, a professional trainer who has, through his years of training small businesses and helping them to grow, has truly proved his mettle. And he is going to talk to you about how to launch a customer-focused marketing strategy. A professional trainer, a small business advocate, an articulate presenter who has demonstrated how good he was when COVID-19 hit us. He was, as a member of our board of directors in our Northeast regional chapter, came out first in the whole country to talk about how to apply for and qualify for the PPP loan. It was so popular that there was an encore, and 2 weeks later, he retrained again. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our trainer, Ryan Silvestre. Ryan?
Thank you. That's a pretty high praise to live up to, so I hope I live up to those expectations. So thank you. I'll start to share my screen with you guys so that we can see what we're about to jump into. Okay. So, hi, and welcome to today's workshop on how to launch your business with customer-focused marketing, brought to you by Grow with Google. So Grow with Google is an initiative to help people prepare for work, find jobs, and grow their businesses online. As Ms. Allen was saying, I am your presenter. A little bit about me. I have about maybe 12, 13 years as a small business consultant with a few different agencies, as well as I practice what I preach. So I have bought and turned several businesses around over the course of my lifetime. And I'm going to try and give you a little bit of the insight from what I've seen the past couple of years to help cement some of the topics that we're going to talk about today. In this workshop, we're going to talk about the basics of customer-focused marketing to help you launch a successful business. And let's go to the next slide. Perfect. So in this workshop, you'll learn why marketing is so important. We'll introduce the customer journey and explain how your marketing can influence who and who does the business with you. You'll learn how to reach prospective customers and build brand awareness, as well as how to engage your customers through the decision-making process and influence their decision. You'll be able to learn methods of conversion to increase the likelihood of a purchase to sustain a customer, and more importantly, to sustain customer loyalty. They'll become a brand advocate for your company. Along the way, I'll have a few questions for you. Please use the chat to answer the questions, and let's jump right into it. So let's start with talking about what is marketing. So if anybody here has taken a college class on marketing or just any class on marketing, we know that marketing is a really big umbrella that talks about a lot of different things. It's the entire experience that you have with a brand. Traditionally, most college textbooks break it up into 4 P's of marketing or 4 C's of marketing, which product, place, promotion, and price. For the purposes of this presentation, the experience is going to be mostly on the promotion side, but we're engaging in the entire customer journey that a potential customer will have with your brand. So great marketers don't make stuff, they make meaning. This is a quote by Seth Godin, and he gets really to the heart of it. I love this quote because it's exactly why I think there's certain brands that we think of that spark a certain emotion and that have really been around for many years. There's a couple of companies that come to mind, companies like Nintendo, Google, obviously, Tesla, who spark a certain loyalty because there's a story behind it. It's not just a product that's satisfying a need, it's a full story that's satisfying the need. The job of a good marketer is to make your products and your brand meaningful to the customer. That's what a customer base is. That's why a customer base is loyal to your brand and choosing your product over others. So let's meet Shalin and Sharika, the founders of a business called TW Tote. So Shalin couldn't find a professional way to carry his lunch to work. He tried paper bags, plastic bags, even those Velcro neoprene mail bags. And I can relate. I worked on Wall Street for several years, and it was always a certain feeling that I got when I had to make the decision. Do I spend $20, $30 for lunch that day? Or do I put it in a brown paper bag? But how do I look? I felt like a schoolboy going to school for lunch, as opposed to a professional going to my Wall Street office. So I can perfectly relate to what motivated him to come up with a concept. He decided to create a more professional bag, and that's how the company was born. So he found the solution, and this is the couple here that started the company displaying their products. Okay. Like most entrepreneurs, they started out with passion and a great idea. They had the design and engineering skills to make it possible, but not much on the marketing side, which is where most businesses end up failing. The marketing is the engine or the heart of what drives a company forward. You don't necessarily have to have the best product, but you do have to have great marketing. That's generally what's going to convince people to continue to come back to you over and over. So what did these guys do? They put together a great product, but they started to do a little bit of research on what problem am I really satisfying, and how can I get this message across to my consumer? They realized that they didn't have the skill set needed in order to dig deep into that topic. Okay. So at its core, marketing is an ongoing effort to create meaning for your customer. It's going to answer questions like, why should customers buy from your company? What's in it for them? What makes your product and service great? Why do I want to buy from you in the first place? Why should I listen to your advice? And more importantly, what's the story? What's the backstory to you, to your brand? Why did you start this in the first place? So storytelling helps impact meaning to your product and brand. It connects the customers with your business on an emotional level. And if you guys just think about the products that you guys buy on a daily basis or just around you, I happen to be a big Android fan, and I always will stick to Android. I'm always going to go look for the next Android. Why? Because I'm emotionally invested into my product, into my Google product. So you could think about the way that people around you, or maybe kids that you guys might have that are really invested into a particular brand or franchise. It's because they're emotionally invested into the brand. So when your customers buy from you, they want to feel good about the purchase that they just did. Your marketing should be about building relationships, developing trust and credibility so that your customers want to buy from you again. There's an important topic here that I like to bring up. In business, you guys are wearing all the different hats. You guys are gonna be wearing your CEO hats, your CFO hats, CMO hats. And right now we're talking about how to make sure that your CMO hat, your Chief Marketing Officer hat, is as well designed and as efficient as possible. But we need to continue to talk with all the other departments. We should always be thinking about your return on investment. And any action that you guys do with your business has a certain return on investment. And your investment is going to be time and or money. So one of the things that I like to drive home early on, and I'll mention this a few times later on during the presentation, is that there is a cost of acquisition and a cost of retention. And what that means is the cost of acquiring a new customer versus the cost of maintaining the customer. So the cost of acquisition, or the cost of keeping it or bringing a customer on for the first time is always dramatically higher. They need to be convinced that this product is something that's going to satisfy one of their needs. Now, once they become a user and hopefully have a good experience, they become an advocate for your brand. And now it's easy to retain them. That's the cost of acquisition. I mean, the cost of retention. So the cost of retention is always going to be much lower than the cost of acquisition. So keep that in mind. Once we get the customer through the journey and they become that advocate, that's the brand. That's the lottery ticket, because they become your salespeople. All right. So let's keep it moving. So what is this customer journey that I'm talking about? It's the sum of the experiences that a customer goes through when interacting with your brand. Awareness is the first phase. When a potential customer discovers you, which could be through word of mouth, could be through a Google search, could be through an ad. Next, they move through the consideration phase. This is when the customers weigh in on whether or not they want to buy this. Does it satisfy a need? Is it something that it's within their reach? Are we marketing to the right demographic, which we'll talk more about in a little while. So that's during the consideration phase. If the customer decides to buy the products, then they move into the purchase phase. And as if you guys recall, marketing is the overall experience that a company has with their customer, which does not stop just at the ad, but it also continues through the purchase. So you think about some of the nicest stores that guys might have gone to. The checkout was just as nice sometimes as the ad or as the consideration or as the awareness. It solidifies the entire relationship with you guys. Which brings me to the final phase, advocacy. This is when customers are so thrilled with your product and experience, they start to become your own salespeople. They advocate for you guys. They'll blast it and forward it on their own social media. They'll talk to their friends and family about it. If you guys think about some of the, there's a few key brands like a Tesla, that we don't see traditional ads, but the people who own Teslas are constantly talking about them on social media and to their friends, and those are loyal brand advocates. That's an example of the direction we want to get to. Okay, so your job as a marketer is to influence the customer at every phase of the customer journey. At the awareness phase, your marketing is focused on reaching your customer. Where are they? So they become aware of your brand. Now, another one of my favorite phrases here is, this is pretty important, guys, so listen up. You cannot find what you cannot define, which is part of the awareness. It's very important. I have to clearly define my customer. And a lot of times people say, oh, I know who my customer is. But when you start to dig deeper and ask the customers and see what trends and what's the common thread behind a lot of them, we might see that it's not who you thought it was. Or more importantly, it changes over time. So we have to continually ask people who your customer is. That way, I know what message to put, what buzzwords to use, but more importantly, where to find them. So during the consideration, your marketing is about engaging with customers by answering questions and building relationships. In the purchase phase, your marketing is about influencing your leads, converting them into a paying customer. This is the finish line. And a lot of times people will drop things off at the finish line. I personally have been shopping online, and at the last phase, they're asking too many questions or it's too cumbersome, and they lost me as a client because it wasn't an easy checkout experience for me, or there were too many barriers to go through, or something just didn't seem right or look right. So the entire marketing journey for me at those times, and I'm sure for you guys too, might have been dropped, that ball might have been dropped at that point. But lastly, sustaining customer with contact with customers who had a good experience that can build loyalty and then turn them into advocates. How many times have you guys bought a good product and we get a follow-up email, maybe a few days later, a few weeks later, or sometimes even a few months later, that asking you, what do you think about this product? Again, that's part of this journey because they want to make sure that you guys are happy with their products, but more importantly, learning about what can they do better with their product moving forward. This makes me feel like this company cares about me, cares about my product, and I become an advocate for them as well. So at every phase of the customer journey, you have the opportunity to persuade them to move forward with you. The better the marketing, the greater the influence, and the longer the journey is going to be. So at this phase, I want to start, I miss these in live, in-person seminars, because I would, feed off the energy of the people, and I would ask questions and go back and forth. But at this time, what I want to do, just to get a gauge of which section we should focus on more, is you can respond into the chat simply with the number 1 for awareness, 2 for consideration, 3 purchase, and 4 advocacy. Let me know which one of these might be something that you might want to chat about a little bit longer, or that you might want to see. And then we'll look at the numbers. The most popular one might be at the end of the workshop. Go back and fill in some blanks that I might have left over. So when you guys can, just go into the blank. I mean, go into the chat. And again, 1 for awareness, 2 for consideration, 3 for purchase, and 4 for advocacy. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about the first phase, which is how to reach your customer and build awareness of your brand. So the customer journey begins with someone, I'm sorry, I just got a little pop-up. Okay. It's asking me how useful is this presentation. So the customer journey may begin with someone who needs something, and they turn to a Google search. I myself constantly go to Google and or YouTube, for building, different things, or using different things and searching different things. A lot of times I get my validation from those reviews on YouTube and on Google. So awareness could be triggered by word of mouth, advertising, trade show marketing, or even very specific industry periodicals. No matter how your customer finds out about you, they'll continue their search by doing what I just said. They're going to go online and they're going to research. Do I need this? What do other people think about this product that I'm about to spend money on? That influences my decision. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So to reach prospective customers, you'll first need to understand who they are so that you know how to reach them. Again, going back to that phrase that I said before, you cannot find what you cannot define. The easier that I can define my customer, the more accurately, the more efficiently my resources will be put to use. And my resources are time and money. And we all have a finite amount of time and money. We want to make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. So start by identifying who needs your products, then build a brand that sparks interest and sparks more specifically their interest, because we can't satisfy everybody. So we have to be very segmented with who we're going after. Once you've defined your ideal market, build a solid brand that gets your business online. And let's talk about each of these concepts in more detail. So when it comes to identifying your customers, it's good to think whose problem you want to solve. Who will want the product and brand experience that you'll create. Understanding exactly who your prospective customers are will help you guide your marketing. Your brand and your products may be useful to just about anybody, but you want to be really hyper-focused on solving the problems of a very specific demographic. Once you guys get additional resources, additional dollars, then we start to build out different brands. And again, think about certain car brands that they have 20 or 30 different models in their lineup. And sometimes they'll have just a core 4 or 5 models, but then they have a bunch of sub models because they're catering to the needs of each of those demographics, And then sometimes they'll create an entire distinct line, and clothing companies do the same thing as well, an entire different line just to cater to another market. Again, we can't have a product that satisfies everybody. Well, let me rephrase that. Very rarely can we have a product that can satisfy everybody. So with market segmentation, it helps you be more efficient with your resources, your dollars, and again, in your time. So you can start with demographic segmentation, things like, age, gender, ethnicity, religion, income, education level. So we're trying to find that common thread among your customers. And again, sometimes we think that it's just this person. And a popular, question I like to ask people is during these live seminars is, who do you think the McDonald's customer is? And usually people will say, a bunch of different answers, which they're all kind of dancing around the same topic. But according to the latest research, which came out, I would say maybe just 2 or 3 months ago, it's a middle-aged white woman who eats, who's buying breakfast. So the vast majority of their customers are that. And in response, McDonald's now expanded their McDonald's menu, or they have been doing so for a while. And they made it part of the permanent menu. Again, it's keeping in line with who my customer is, what problem are we solving, and how can we build, a brand loyalty and advocacy. So geographics would be location-based information. So this would be the size of the industry, the size of your particular market. So if I have a local pizzeria, not all of my state is my customer. Maybe it might be a 10-mile radius of where my pizzeria is, or 15-mile radius if the pizza is really good. But generally, you have to double down and figure out geographically who my customer is. So we do further digging, like what language do they speak? Sometimes even what's the climate like? What's the weather like? What's the economics like of that geography? That helps me understand the psychoanalysis that I'm doing to profile my customer. Lastly, behavioral segmentation involves things like the frequency at which a customer might purchase a product, or how they use a product. And that can help determine the level of loyalty. So this is something that a lot of the big marketing companies end up doing. They create a visual profile of a customer. It helps humanize my target, as opposed to just saying this range or this size or this this geography. But we actually create a visual profile that when we're doing marketing campaigns, we're looking at this particular slide for coming up with concepts, language, buzzwords, tactics that will help connect with my audience, or in this case, Metro Michaela. So creating a customer personas can give you a real picture of who you're trying to reach. Naming them, associating them with a photo, these are common practices that these big marketing companies do in any major city. So consider the customer persona. So in Metro Michaela, she's in her mid-30s, female, single, lives alone in a large city. She's college educated, has a mid-level management job, works in the fashion industry. Michaela likes to have friends over, cook, drink wine. She dreams of traveling, but spends most of her time in the city shopping at local boutiques, farmers markets. How would you market a product to Metro Michaela? Think about what you would use to influence her decisions along that customer journey. So the first couple of questions that I would think of is, what channels would I be on? What type of imagery, words, tone, very important. We'll talk about tone in a moment, but tone or voice would appeal to her. What type of product attributes or characteristics would be important to her? So this would be one of those times, again, I miss these in-person sessions, but this is where I would get you guys involved and ask you guys questions on, give me some ideas of what you think, would pertain to her. So my gut feeling, I'm thinking, the quality of the craftsmanship of the bag. If we're using the TW tote as an example, the stitching, the materials, the texture, the feeling, what the materials are made out of, those are all things that I think might really call the attention to Metro Michaela. Okay, so let's go into the next slide. So once you identify your customer, it's time to create a brand that appeals to them. So branding is not just the logos and colors and graphics, it's an overall experience. It's an overall vision, overall emotion that a company has with your brand. And again, think back to your own transactions and your own companies that you engage with. When I go to a certain theme park, it might spark emotional, I don't know, magical certain feelings. And it's because of the brand that they've created. So branding is a good brand identifies and connects emotionally with your prospective customers. Your logo design, brand colors, they help convey the certain feelings and emotions that you want to inspire in them. Graphic elements communicate the values and interests that you should represent in prospective customers that you aspire to have. And your brand message, your tone, your voice, do the same. Helping to communicate with your brand is about how it relates to them and how it aligns with their values. And that's the idea with any great brand that we have experience with, is that we want to have, again, that real solid connection between them and us. So These shared values and ideals are the basis for any solid brand. So choose your logo, choose your colors, and usually it's not going to be the same. If we take any brand, you guys can do a simple little Google search on, take your favorite brand. This might be your first homework assignment. Take your favorite brand and look up what their first version of their logo looked like. And you'll see that sometimes the logo and the brand will change as times change, as tastes and desires change, as buying behaviors change. Cadillac years ago used to be mostly about how comfortable my car is. Today, they're incorporating a lot of performance parts because their target demographic is changing. And as a result, their brand changes, their logo changes. So again, just look up your favorite company and look up the initial, the first version of their company. Sometimes it's a very drastic change. With TW Tote, they position themselves as a luxury but approachable brand. They wanted their product to be accessible while meeting their standards of quality and style. They use these characteristics to describe who they are, what they want to be, and how they want to be perceived. These values can be written into your brand positioning statements that establishes the foundation of your marketing efforts. So brand positioning statement, which we'll talk about more in a moment, is at the heart of most of your decisions. A lot of times parts of it could be used out into the public, but usually this is an internal mission statement, so to speak, that drives why a customer wants to buy from you. In your brand positioning statement, this is your North Star, just like I mentioned. This is at the core of why I want to write something in a certain way, or why I want to place a certain message in a certain channel. So it should include things like the customers who you serve, what offer or how it addresses the customer's needs, how you're best at what you do, what differentiates you from your competition. And sometimes, again, it doesn't have to be the best product or the lowest price product. It has to be the most value to me. And again, think about the things that you buy throughout the course of your days. You guys are not always necessarily buying the best product or the highest quality product or the the lowest price product. You're buying the one that connected with you on an emotional level sometimes, or solved a really good problem. So brand positioning statements need to be brief, clear, memorable. Good branding creates cohesive, powerful experience for your customers, and it begins here. So this is an example of what a template might look like. So I'll give you guys take a moment, to take a screenshot, a picture. If you guys do grab a picture, make sure you guys grab my good side. This is the example of what it could be. It doesn't have to be like this, but it should be roughly this size. It should be roughly having these areas to make sure that they're properly addressed, all the segments of what a brand position statement should include. So let's apply that now to TW Tote. So this is how they filled it in. For the working professionals who need a stylish and functional lunch bag, TW Tote provides fashionable, insulated, vegan leather totes because everyone deserves a luxurious and functional lunch bag that the entire family can use. So this resonates with all of their decision making when it comes to marketing decisions. Okay. So once you've defined your prospective customer and designed a brand that speaks to them, it's time to get your business online. You may want to find an audience through existing platforms like social media or selling platforms like Etsy, directory sites, or even very industry-specific websites. These are places that customers drive through that might discover you. So these existing platforms can help you search specific customer information, help to understand how their tastes and wants are changing, and then how you can modify and adjust your statements and sometimes even your product design. That means if the owner, actually an important part that I almost forgot to mention. So when you do have a presence on one of these other sites, think about it like this, like it's you're renting an apartment because you are having a presence on somebody else's platform. Let's say we use YouTube as an example. You know, I am the tenant, YouTube is the landlord. So what does that mean? If something were to happen to YouTube and that was the main way that I connected with my audience, I now got disconnected. That cord just got cut. So I have to really think about driving, you know, business back to my website, back to some other place that I'm in control of, that where I'm the landlord. And I need to make that, you know, happen from day one. So there's always going to be a call to action. That's why a lot of the best brands, you'll see that they have always a call to action, which is come back to my website, you know, because you want to be in control. So when you, if you build a brand's presence only on a leased platform, you risk the chance of losing that soul connection, like I just mentioned. Leased platforms should only be used as a supplement to your website. So building your own website ensures that you own the property, you own that online property. You'll have full control over its content, how it behaves. You can even use it to grow and customize with your business as the business grows and customizes its needs to satisfy. And that's another point. When you guys are doing your market research, for those of you who are still at the planning stages or just very new to your business, sometimes we unfairly compare ourselves to a company that has a much larger head start. Here, another little personal favorite website of mine is, I think it's called archive.org, using the Wayback Machine. And you can see what a website looks like for one of your competitors a couple of years ago. So if this is year one for your business, compare yourself to year one of a competitor and what did their website look like? And then more importantly, through a website like archive.org, you can see the evolution of the website over time, which then can accelerate your progression and your your evolution of your own website. So you learn from their history and from their mistakes. So you can almost cut to the front of the line right away, so to speak. And when you have your own website, you can optimize it for search engines, which helps people find you. So search engine optimization, which I'm sure everybody here has heard of, is extremely critical. But more importantly, it's an ongoing job. So the algorithms are updated regularly, and nobody has access to the exact algorithm that a search engine might use. So we should be constantly having activity with our websites and having a relationship with a marketing person, or tuning into to your local Grow with Google or USPAC chambers to find out what's happening now with the newest and latest Google algorithm. So Google also offers a way to get your business online by creating a free business profile. I can speak on a personal side for this one as well. I have a business which I can't mention, but we opened up right now an office on the other side of the country. I'm on the East Coast. I just opened one up in California, and without spending any marketing dollars, all I've done is doing my beta testing and having a presence with Google My Business. And I can tell you that I've already had enough customers, enough leads come in to pay all my operating expenses just from my Google My Business profile. So it's a powerful tool. And I know it's convenient that I'm here talking about a Google presentation, but I'm a real big fan and personal believer of Google, especially for features and help that they provide for small businesses like mine with this situation. So the business profile displays critical business information that that searchers will come across when they're doing a Google research or doing just Googling on your product or certain keywords, and even on Google Maps, which is another area a lot of small businesses sometimes tend to ignore. And if your website is optimized and if your Google My Business profile is optimized, again, you're capturing that data, you're capturing that potential customer and creating that awareness, earlier rather than later. So this doesn't replace a website, and it doesn't replace marketing, but it's a beautiful tool that can help strengthen your website and help strengthen your marketing. So creating a Google business profile helps you control details that Google will display, things like your business hours, contact information, store locations, photos, videos, and a few other things. There are also built-in marketing features that help communicate with your customers throughout their customer journey. And then you can learn more about this, google.com/business. So once you discover, your brand, you want to move into the next phase, or once your customer discovers your brand, you want to move into the next phase of the customer journey, which is consideration. Here, you can guide the customers through the process of evaluating your brand, engaging and influencing them to learn more about you and why they should buy or consider your product or your service. So during the consideration phase, customers are deciding whether or not they want to do business with you. They're evaluating your brand compared to other choices, which is exactly what I was mentioning before with, I'm thinking about buying this product. Let me look up on YouTube what other people are saying about this product and how it's received by other people, especially if it's a larger ticket item. So gather information helps them, or in this case, me, decide whether or not I should pull the trigger and actually buy that product or that service. So your marketing strategy is to provide answers and questions that details why your product or why your customer, why they should be your customer. Things that I would consider at this phase is partnering up with as many other people as possible and being very engaging with them. So it's not enough that we have a YouTube channel or an Instagram channel or something. We really want to engage with those customers. Again, I mentioned Tesla before, but the CEO directly, Mr. Musk himself, will reply occasionally to some feedback and some questions from customers. Again, this is part of that consideration. And very few CEOs, a handful do, but very few CEOs at that level actually take time for themselves personally to reply and engage with customers. And that's what this part of the consideration is all about. So engaging with your customers during the consideration phase is extremely crucial, like I just mentioned. Learn about their needs. You learn about their needs, their wants by listening to them, ask them questions, and having meaningful conversations. Spend time communicating and delivering valuable information and content to your customers. Your goal during this phase is to build interest and desire about your product with your customer, so they can develop a deeper and longer relationship with your brand. To learn about your customers, you have to listen to them. Don't make any assumptions. And there's a bunch of examples out there, and I can give you guys a ton of examples where company A launched a product with that customer in mind, but it turned out to be another customer that was buying the product. So, and there's a couple classic textbook examples where there was a real pivot in marketing and even design of the product itself, because they realized that they cemented more with another audience. One of my favorite examples, Timberland shoes. So if everybody here, I'm sure most people have already heard of Timberland shoes, but they were designed with the outdoors person in mind, the outdoorsy person. But yet, years after their product launch, they hit home and they were more well represented by urban buyers. So city buyers started to buy these Timberland shoes. And as a result, even the product changed, the marketing changed, the advertisements changed. Now you can buy Timberlands in different colors: yellow, pink, orange, blue, colors that an outdoorsy person wouldn't really be fond of or care too much for, because they're looking at just the quality of the product. Does it hold up on a construction site or in the outdoors? But because they were listening and not making any assumptions, their entire business model pivoted to cater more towards a different audience. They never left their initial target, but they also wanted to cater to the new target that was really responding well to their products. So to help determine what these needs are, we have to listen for what are their pain points. The better that you understand those needs, the better that you can address those needs. And then the more of a problem that's being solved by your product, and the more attractive your product becomes. So in the case of TW Tote, they discovered that their customers loved their lunch bags, but also needed different styles for their own personal styles, the individual buyers. And they started to address it by a line of tote bags. You can address these challenges with your potential customers by making modifications to the message or the product, like I mentioned. But sometimes their challenges are not with you and your product. Sometimes it's with the industry. Sometimes it's with an overall experience. And then those are things that you might be able to brainstorm and say, I didn't have this on my horizon to address, but let me see if I can fix something on the industry, which might present even a bigger business opportunity for you guys as well. So by analyzing what the customers need and searching online, it gives you insight into how to evolve your company, how your company will evolve over time. By listening and learning, you can figure out how to best serve your customer and sometimes even anticipate what your customer is going to need. And obviously, as you can see, this is one of the bags that TW Totes launched with their revamp. So you can use a Google search to find out what your customers may be looking for. Often it's a solution to their problems. So how do you, or how does your customer or prospective customer search? What terms are they using to find your product? TW Totes customers might be more fashion forward, might be looking for fashion plus lunch plus bags, and or sometimes even styling tips. So these are keywords that we're going to be using in our marketing a little bit later on, which I'll get to. These search terms become the keywords and the key phrases that are going to be always, if not at the front line, at the subliminal level of what your marketing message is going to have and going to convey. So most small businesses have somewhere around, I don't know, 5 to maybe 30 keywords or phrases that these customers will continually use to find them. So these keywords and these phrases are things that you want to use inside of your, as a hashtag. You might want to embed them to your search engine optimization so that they can find you when somebody Googles these words. So these are things that that will help connect you to your brand and to your customer, more importantly. So whenever you enter into a search, you're going to see a bunch of related searches on the bottom, these little green lines at the bottom. So that gives me an insight as what are people searching that is showing similar results. And sometimes it's a term that I didn't even think of or come across. I'm going to grab that term and I'm going to throw it into my marketing arsenal, as far as how can I address this? Sometimes it's a brand new topic that I didn't even consider, didn't think, and it might give me motivation to launch a slightly different campaign with this in mind. In the case of TW Tote, maybe sustainable materials and prompted vegan materials, vegan leather to be used as the as their core product. So with TW Tote, you would type in professional lunch bag into your Google search, and you look at all the keywords that are coming up in the marketing, and that is going to help evolve their brand. So a free Google tool is called Google Trends. I personally have used Google Trends a bunch of times. It's extremely powerful, and it's what I was mentioning before that will help anticipate what is coming down the line and give me new ideas of how to better design my products or how to better design my ads or where to even place my ads in the first place. So Google Trends will show you relative popularity of different search terms that are being used on Google. If it has enough data, the trends can show and even forecast the search volume and search experiences and when there's going to be a significant growth. You can use it to find and compare the popularity of different words and phrases, determining the seasonality of different searches, because that's another important one. Throughout the year, suntan lotion, as an example, might be very popular in the summer months based on certain climates, but not so popular in the winter months. So which I know that was a pretty obvious example, but that same logic also applies with any type of bags. For them, maybe best Christmas gift for him or for her. That might be a popular search term towards the end of the year that they might not want to incorporate in their marketing, but more importantly, in their search engine optimization. All this information can help create the proper evolution of your company to ensure sustainable growth. So once you know what your customer is looking for, it's time to give them exactly what they want. The shift can be from listening to communicating to then engaging with them. Very important. We always want to educate and inspire in most of our messages. Sometimes the tone can be comedy. We spoke about, or I mentioned briefly, tone and voice a little while ago. I just didn't really address it quite well yet. But the tone and voice is, are you a serious brand? Or is there, if the general consumer has has the appetite for, just give me the facts, maybe it's a very, serious brand. But in other cases, might have a younger demographic, and they might, really resonate well when there's comedy. But underneath the comedy, there's still education, and there's still something that inspires them. That's the key part here. So your customers want, most likely to know, why why your industry, why your products, what can you teach them, and more importantly, why should I listen to you? So what you can demonstrate, or instruct them, or what can you demonstrate and instruct them in? How can you help them, inspire them, and provide resources to them? Engage with customers by giving them a valuable information that provides, or that proves that you're a credible source of information about your industry. Content that builds trust by sharing your expertise. This type of communication isn't about promoting your products. It's more about engaging with your audience. Something that I love here is a phrase. This is another one of the key important phrases of mine. So listen up. You always want to consider trading value for their attention. And I love that phrase. Whenever you're marketing, whenever you're engaging with customers, you are trading value for attention. So what kind of value am I putting out there? And I've been a small business consultant for, like I said, 12, 13, maybe 14 years now. And I see that this is a ball that's heavily dropped, because people are very quick to show promotion with, buy this discount, but that's not really real value. That's very temporary value. I want value that's reshareable, repostable. If it's on a social media, I want to be able to send this to somebody else. Now you have my attention, and I'm now also an advocate, and you have somebody else's attention. So that's what you should be asking yourself before you post something. Is this shareable? Is there value here? Because I'm trading value again for their attention. So you can share content, words, photos, and videos through many different channels. You don't have to be on all of them. And that's a huge mistake too. Most people start their businesses and they want to be on all the major platforms, but you don't have enough resources to really do a good job on all the major resources. We have to create that customer profile that we spoke about a little while ago with Metro Michaela, and then find out, well, which platform is she spending the most amount of time on? It's not which platform is she on, because she might be on 6, 7, 10 of them, but your time and money really has the ability to really do well with just 1 or 2. So see where she's spending the majority of her money, and that's the channel we're going to choose if Metro Michaela is one of my customers. So you don't have to be on all of them, like I mentioned. So just think of each, and think of each of these channels as a means to share content, to grab their attention in the place of where your customer likes to spend their time, and just learn general information. So TW Tote, they have a YouTube channel which shares commercial style videos and tips, and that is part of their marketing mix, which is something that I haven't mentioned yet. But the marketing mix is going to be your collection of ways that you engage with a customer. All these tactics together are called your marketing mix. You guys can do a little research on what parts of a marketing mix apply to my business. So there's a lot of choices out there. So choose channels that are based on whether your customer spends time there, what delivers to them, or what's what channel is really delivering, that's what I meant to say, really delivering the value that they're engaging with on a regular basis. Ultimately, you want to drive traffic, like I said, back to your website so that you can share content directly on your website. That's always a lotto ticket. The lotto ticket is they're going to discover my video on YouTube as an example, but the call to action somewhere at the description is always a link back to my website, where maybe other videos will live, or maybe other forums will live, or whatever motivates them to continue that experience, that customer journey with you guys. So if you have a business profile on Google, you can use things like, again, going back to google.com/business. You can use some of their features like posting content right there on the Google My Business website to revert back to your website. So whatever you can dream up that's interesting or entertaining, educational for your prospective customers, usually that's the stuff that we want to post on some of our websites again, but with value orientation at its core. I know it sounds like a lot, so and it is a lot, but we're doing one step at a time. One brick at a time creates an entire wall over time. So that's what we're doing. So we create a method to our marketing plan that's part of our business plan, and we're just taking off one chunk at a time. Okay, so no one wants to feel like they're being sold, and that's such a powerful statement too. One of my it sounds like I have like a million favorite statements, but this one I also really like. So remember, this is also another really important one. No one likes to be sold, but we all love to buy. Now, I didn't make that one up. It's from a book that I like called the Little Red Book of Selling. But it's such a powerful statement because it's extremely true. I walk into a car dealership and all these car salesmen are rushing to sell me. I feel like I'm being sold and pressured to buy something. I walk into other businesses where they don't have commission sales driven people, and they're not just educating me and telling me why I could buy this if I wanted to. So I feel like I'm in control. So that should be also at the forefront of whenever you're engaging, whenever you're selling, whether it's in person or online. So at the core of all your marketing messages is always remember, don't sell, just provide information, and then let them decide whether they want to buy or not. Provide opportunities for your customers to evaluate your brand and products through content. One page on TW's website describes how the product, how it's made, what makes them special. So part of your website should always have some type of testimonial, because I expect you to tell me that you're good. But when other people start to say that I like you, then that gives me a little bit better, or lowers my guard to accepting the messages. And then give me just facts, give me information. Again, don't sell me, but just give me the information. Another popular thing you could do with your website is the FAQ page. What are the popular questions that people are coming up with? That also helps with your search engine optimization, which again, there's going to be other workshops that I talk about all the different tactics for SEO stuff. But one of those tactics is frequent updates with your websites. And as people are asking questions, add it and update your FAQ side. That's going to be you're going to be rewarded by search algorithm because your website looks like it has a lot of activity on it. So other things to consider are demo videos. Powerful. I think videos, like I mentioned before, I YouTube pretty much almost anything and everything on how to fix my fridge, how to put up the shelves or something. So talk about a product demo that you guys might do. And the ultimate lotto ticket is when a customer or a reviewer can review it, because I don't expect them to say that it's good. I expect them to not be your salesperson. So when they say that they like your product, it just hits that much more, more efficiently, just, hits that much harder. So other things you can do, sampling, free trials, encourage people to sign up on email lists. Through emails, you can also segment your audience and send personalized communication that continues to nurture that customer relationship and that customer journey that we're talking about. Okay. So communicating in this way with your prospective customer helps develop a relationship to build trust, credibility, and more important, likability. These are the things that you earn by putting in the work that we've talked about so far. Beyond sharing great content, you'll also need to spend time in solving their problems, even the ones that come up before they become a paying customer. And that's extremely important. Sometimes I don't need something, or at least I don't think I need something, but when I see a new problem, a new solution coming out, I realize, wow, I actually have a problem that I didn't realize I had. And that happens all the time. And there's great, CEOs, legendary CEOs that have, gone on to say very similar things, that sometimes I am launching a product before the customer even needs that product. And now we can't live without that product, but by having a consistent content strategy and dedication to engaging with your customers through a variety of channels, it solidifies that relationship. So now let's meet Tracy and Dana, or Donnie. You know, my grandmother's name is actually Donnie, so I think it might be pronounced Donnie. I hope I'm saying it right. So let's look at another real world business to help us understand the third and fourth phases of that customer journey. So with Tracy and Donnie, it's a mother-daughter team called Wicked Good Cupcakes. So in 2010, they took a cake decorating class. Their passion became, this business that they had, and they opened up the doors in October 2011. So as their reputation grew, they received hundreds of shipping requests, but they couldn't find a way to ship all these cupcakes that were arriving in a fresh, intact way. That's when they come up with their big idea, which is the cupcake inside a mason jar. So by filling the mason jar with layers of cake, frosting, filling, these cupcakes stayed fresh for longer, and that's the solution. Just like with TW Tote, they were inspired by a problem, and then they came up with a solution, but now they have to really double down on how do I market myself and how do I create that customer journey and guide them along the entire way of that customer journey. So the news spread about their products in April 2013. Tracy and Donnie debuted their product on ABC's Shark Tank in front of 10 million viewers. Wicked Cupcakes became the go-to site or the go-to, well, actually even the website became a go-to site for unique online baked goods. With an appearance on a popular TV show, Wicked Good Cupcakes had to achieve brand awareness and were actively engaging with their customers. Their next step was to focus on increasing purchases and turning customers into brand loyal advocates. It was time for Tracy and Donnie, I apologize, sorry, Grandma. Tracy and Donnie to help market their, their purchase and will help market their entire brand and help during the purchase and advocacy phases of their customer journey. They needed to learn more about their customers so they can better convert them. They needed to identify opportunities to improve their website and to help make their entire experience, especially at the checkout process, more efficient. They also needed to give their customers reasons to come back to their website, share their experiences with others, and eventually become those brand advocates I've been talking about, for a little while now. With the help of Wicked Good Cupcakes, we're going to talk about the last two phases, but on our next time. So I want to leave you guys on a little bit of a cliffhanger so you guys can tune in on next Monday to see how these two actually conquered the last two segments of that customer journey. On my side, you guys, a little homework assignments, so think about the first two steps. You can bring additional questions to next Monday's session, and start coming up with a marketing plan, or in a business plan. Reach out to your local U.S. PAC Chamber of Commerce, see if they have a business plan template that you guys can use. Inside that business plan template, there should be a marketing section that follows a lot of the same logic that we're talking about here. And then you guys can start to build it, and maybe we can ask a question about that marketing plan. So that would be the last step, and then we'll get to it next month.